What We Cannot See Pioneers Intended Ending Part 1. What We Cannot See Pioneers left off where the monster called the Emissary caught Gavla wandering through the abandoned Arthene mines. As the Emissary was part of the many monsters roaming the New Land, it was able to read Gavla's thoughts, and knew very well of her dislike of the alliance between what remained of the Bionicle government and the minifig New Land Empire. It managed to catch her and speak with her briefly. Initially scared, Gavla came to realize that the Emissary, essentially the voice of every monster in the New Land, wanted to help her, as long as she helped the monsters. Since the monsters disliked the minifigs more than they disliked the Bionicles, the Emissary told Gavla that it would give her some of its immense power to help her become a mighty being, steadily growing stronger and stronger over time, if she one day used this power to destroy the minifig race. Having ambition to become a powerful being herself, and her ultimate goal of uniting the Bionicle race into one strong empire, Gavla agreed. The Emissary injected her with what appeared to be a liquid substance from its very being, and Gavla's eyes glowed red with her newly acquired power. She went back up to the surface to meet Icarax, who had been looking for her. Icarax told her that Fort Mercy was undergoing heavy renovation to make room for the new minifig arrivals being rescued from all over the New Land, and that some kind of counter-maneuver against the monsters was being planned. Gavla, with a sly grin, faked pleasure at hearing this news. Deep down she was scheming, for no one knew of her immense might and her new mission. Only 2 episodes remained in Pioneers. They would begin with focusing in back on Fort Mercy, the immense stronghold and defensive position against the monster attacks in the New Land. The entire minifig army was stationed there, and every citizen and minifig that could be found was being sent there to live in safety. Every colonial mayor was being asked by the Prime Minister Stanley Gutenoa to leave their colonies and report to Fort Mercy. Captain Mike, Colonel Carlos, General George, and a list of other minifig officials were all at Fort Mercy awaiting the day when the offensive against the monsters would begin. As carrier trucks came and went from Fort Mercy, bringing in minifig refugees and going back out to search for more, one truck stopped at Mercy, and a soldier inside of it got out carrying what appeared to be a book of some kind. Prime Minister Gutenoa was conversing with some of his other commanders, when this soldier presented the book to him. The Prime Minister looked confused, and opened the old and crumbling book to find strange dialogue within. He assembled everyone of importance within his command circle to examine this book. In a very stern tone, Gutenoa told them that from the little he read of this strange book, he feels that this could hold many answers to the existence of the monsters and what was going on in general in the New Land. The book was titled Observations of a Strange World, and no author's name could be found anywhere on the book. Together, the group of officials flipped through the thin book. On each page were a series of quotes, written in handwriting. Examples were these: "This world, unlike any other, will remind us all, Bionicle or minifig, of our supreme insignificance. I am not the first to inhabit this place. This is a world not to be toyed with. Great forces are at work here. Anyone who would try and claim this world for their own is a fool and will be punished. This land possesses a mysterious aura. It is splendid on the outside, a paradise, but one needs only to live here for a few days to know there is something very extraordinary occurring here. Something owns this world, fully dominating it and watching over its every acre. It holds this world gently and softly, yet it holds this world in gritty iron claws. It's a guardian of the foulest kind. It is just indeed, but also sinister. I've seen just about every part of this wondrously haunting place. Nowhere did I feel any sense of privacy, because I was always being watched by something, somewhere." And among the little quotes was the quote that was placed at the beginning of What We Cannot See Pioneers. "Every great realm is preceded by another." Further analysis of the book shows that this entire compilation of quotes was written by a minifig, though still no information about him is revealed anywhere inside of it. The strangest part of this book is that nowhere is there any mention of the minifig Newland Empire's presence in the New Land, or that of the Bionicles. Convinced that this strange piece of literature may contain many answers the minifigs are seeking, Prime Minister Stanley Gutenoa orders his officers and ITCA, Imperial Technologies and Chemicals Agency, scientists, to study this book in its entirety with thoroughness. Immediately, King Archimald, the former leader of the now ruined Bionicle state in the New Land, is called up by Gutenoa and informed of the strange book's existence, with the possibility that it contains information on the foe that the entire New Land has been fighting against. About a day later, the men charged with studying observations of a strange world had discovered a telling collection of data compiled in the mysterious book. The author was indeed a minifig, who somehow seemed to have arrived in the New Land long before the minifig Newland Empire even existed. But the most grim information this book has to offer, obviously, the information regarding the monsters. Using the information gathered from the book, Dr. Daniel York, lead scientist of ITCA, prepared a report to present to every citizen of Fort Mercy, in order to educate them on the threat and to tell them what the minifig Newland Empire's next course of action should be. Icarax and Gavla returned to Fort Mercy shortly after the report was completed by Dr. York, and Archimald greeted them, asking about Gavla's appearance. Gavla, nonchalantly, said, "I just went exploring." Archimald chided Gavla on the fact that leaving a place of security in the New Land was extremely dangerous due to the monsters lurking around, but Gavla hardly seemed to take heed of Archimald's advice. King Archimald continued by telling Icarax and Gavla, "The minifigs have found information they believe can help us understand the monsters better. One of their scientists is about to make a presentation to all of Fort Mercy." Icarax and Gavla intrigued. Archimald led his remaining two subjects to the center of Fort Mercy to find Dr. Daniel York, with Prime Minister Stanley Gutenoa and the rest of the minifig High Command behind him on an elevated platform. Below them were the greatly increased number of minifig citizens, as well as Imperial and militia minifig troops. When Dr. Daniel York sees that everyone in Fort Mercy was ready, he began his report on the monsters. "My fellow citizens and friends, minifig and bionicle alike, I'm speaking here today on a mission to educate you. There is not a single person here who is not aware of the fact that something very grim is occurring throughout the New Land. Once, we could call this lush paradise home. However, it seems our presence is highly unwelcome, and by who we know not. But, from our studies and tireless efforts, we have managed to get a better idea. The chaos started quite a while ago. Minifig colonists traveling to the newly established colonies in the New Land used a highway in order to travel safely to their settlements. This highway was called Highway 26, and was a symbol of the minifig Newland Empire's architectural prowess. But there came a mysterious day when this highway was almost entirely sliced in half. The remaining half of the highway, which led to the colonies, had completely vanished, replaced by grass. At first we naively believed it was something that we knew that had ruined this great road, such as criminals or vandals. Colony Confidence dispatched Colonel Carlos and a squad of soldiers to investigate. Carlos expected to find criminals too, but what he found was something far more gruesome: the head of a minifig colonist lying on the side of what was left of the highway. It was then that his forces were approached by a haunting presence. A titanic monster made of both bionicle and minifig parts attacked Carlos. This monster was attached to a tentacle of sorts, made up of minifig and bionicle parts that extended through a hole in the wall. By severing this tentacle, Carlos brought the beast down. Elsewhere in the New Land, Icarax, a bionicle colonist, was walking with his friend when confronted by a monstrosity of the same caliber that Carlos encountered. It was a long, serpentine horror that he killed by cutting it from its tentacle. Later, when Icarax joined with Gavla and King Archimald, the two of them faced 3 more terrifying creatures. They all spoke to the group, claiming that there was a greater presence in the New Land, and that this greater presence was supreme. "My citizens and allies, the New Land is in the middle of a crisis. These terrible creatures are of such alien design, are in no way welcoming of our presence, and want us all destroyed. They are made of our technology, and in a hideous way, even our own people. These monsters are all working together to somehow expel us from the new land, or kill us all. Whatever they want, they have been winning in their fight, and until now our government knew little of these monsters. Our forces have received a mysterious book written by a minifig scholar of unknown name. This minifig traveled to the new land long before we colonized it, and in his book he talks about a supreme being living in the new land, but ever invisible to his own eyes. Though this author speaks mainly in riddles and in small quotations in his book, he does allude to rather concrete details about what we are up against. And by far, the most astonishing thing is that we are not actually facing many different monsters throughout the new land. Every terrible abomination that the Bionicles and the minifigs have encountered is in fact just one small part of one supreme super being. We all know that the attacks against us have not been discriminating as to who they strike. Bionicles and minifigs alike are the target of this cunning evil force. But no one knows what this driving superintelligence that is commanding all these monsters throughout the new land really is. However, this book, titled Observations of a Strange World, gave this horrific presence a name. The author of this book calls this super being the Biocene. Where he got this name is all unknown, but much debate among our top commanders, including our great Prime Minister, has led us to one overriding conclusion. I will now allow Stanley Gutenoa himself to continue with this.